Welcome to One Take Weekly. If you're wondering Daniel, why don't you just tell the folks at home about how we tried to start earlier this time? I said last week that we always start on time, but then there's about 30 minutes of you cursing a lot and making really angry faces because nothing works. So today we started even earlier, so we had more issues. It's like a gas that just expands to fill whatever container. You have transcended your physical form and entered a gaseous state. And I entered today thinking, I actually felt bad after the last live stream. I felt like I was a little too hard on you because it's just such an easy go-to. Anytime I can't think of something to say, I've replaced ums with insulting you. And you can't just break a bad habit like this. But I was going to do it. I was going to go cold turkey. And then the last 45 minutes of my life happened. But I actually have an idea, though. You know, like I said, you can't just stop a bad habit right away. You have to redirect it. What if we pick a scapegoat? We just choose a name. And anytime I feel like I want to say something negative about you, you didn't become a gaseous state. Who did? Who can we pick to put in the barrel? I was thinking Ralph, just Simpsons, but Big Ralph might be offended if he's listening. Maybe I'll just try and keep it to a minimum. By the way, I'm Gil. If you haven't tuned into one of these before, I am the voice and the writer, the creative force behind One Take, if I might say that. And next to me is my little brother, Daniel. Say hello.
Hello.
That's good to see you. And let's just jump into it. What do you think?
Let's do it.
A shout out, by the way, to Greg Beasy. Used to go by Greg B, and he's since gained 4 letters in his name. He is one of our first subscribers. One of the big milestones that we had early on for this channel. You might think, oh, they're trying out live streaming. It's a new thing they're doing. No. This channel was basically founded on live streams. Our first success is when we spontaneously went live the night that El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie, was coming out. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to just have sort of a hype session before the show starts? We did a countdown. It came out at 3 o'clock in the morning. Alon projected a clock behind me. So it was counting down the whole time till 3 a.m. At 3 a.m., I muted the stream and I put up a sign that said watching El Camino. And I watched it till 5 in the morning, then got back on stream. And then things haven't changed because when I got back on screen, the mic didn't work. Nobody could hear me. And I had about 100 people watching. At the time, that was, well, even now, that would be huge. But at the time, it was mind-blowing. And I had to tell those 100 people, I'm going to shut the stream down, start a new one, and I'm just going to pray that you come back. And then I gave my thoughts on the movie. But Greg B was there.
How many that came back?
I don't remember how many actually stuck around until 5 in the morning. But I recall a good number of them came back when I switched over. We were simulcasting too. I had my laptop, was YouTube, my phone was Periscope, and both of them each had about 75 to 100 people on it. It was a huge night. And tonight, okay, we started off a little shaky, but now I'm remembering the good times. Are you feeling the good vibes?
Oh, very much so.
You're like, no, I'm not, because I wasn't on that live stream. You wouldn't let me join it. All right, I know what's going to cheer you up and cheer me up. I love an agenda. Nothing makes me feel more at home than an agenda. Do you want me to pull it up?
I love agendas, especially when they're on slides.
One Take Weekly. And this time I got the date right, February 7th. Our agenda today, we're going to do a quick One Take update. People love the One Take update. 11% of people love it. And then we have a double feature. We're doing 2 segments tonight. Gil reads comics. We're talking about the new Suicide Squad Kill Arkham tie-in comic related to the game. Issue 1 came out today. Going to be a 6-issue limited series. We read it. I made a PowerPoint about it. We're going to talk about it. And then we're going to do Gaming with Gil, and I'll talk about the new Suicide Squad game, which everybody loves. Spoiler alert. So
There's
let's go to
missing from the agenda.
What's that? Oh, well, we want there to be twists and turns on One Take.
Okay.
So I haven't forgotten. We'll get to that.
Just when it feels relevant, when it comes up organically.
I can feel the gas seeping in like Scarecrow's fear toxin. Well, why am I talking about Scarecrow? Why am I talking about Suicide Squad? The cat's out of the bag. I've been talking about this big recap I'm working on. And on Tony's live stream last week, he twisted my arm. He was like, Gil, what are you working on? And I don't want any of this, oh, I'm working on something. It's going to be great. I want specifics. He put my feet to the fire. And so I told everybody, so I might as well talk about it here. The recap I've been working on is a recap of all of the Arkham games in timeline order. It's got to be chronological order. That's very important to me ever since the MCU. Like after the MCU timeline, there's Gil's life pre-chronological order and my life post-chronological order. Everything's got to be chronological. It's going to be all the Arkham games, all the DLC, all the tie-in comics, most of the tie-in comics. There was even an animated film that was canon to the Arkham series, and that's part of the recap. That's why I kept saying 70% of people are going to be happy about this, because when I took a poll, 70% of people said yes to video game content. And the funny thing is, the people who said no vehemently did not want it. So it's going to upset some people, but change always does. If you don't want to be criticized, what do I always say, Daniel? Say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. Like
oh,
Daniel.
yeah, you always say that.
Sorry, I mean like Ralph.
Like Ralph.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Big Ralph. We didn't mean that.
I also, last week I said I was sleep deprived. This week you can multiply that by 3. The same things as last week, where I get in bed and I just start thinking about the video. Not even consciously, it just starts playing in my head. I just start hearing it. Or I start having conversations with people who aren't there. This conversation, I've had it dozens of times by now. Monday night, I'm laying in bed and I'm thinking, how do I best describe to Daniel what's happening right now? And these words I'm saying to you right now, I said in my head. Is that universal? Because I realized that's something I never thought about, but I have a little routine in my brain. Every night when I go to bed, my mind does certain things. Is it the same for everybody? What's your routine? You're like, well, I imagine I'm having a podcast with Gil. You're like, I've heard you dozens of times by now, because that's not in your head. You're calling me every night. You're like, Daniel, I want to have a podcast right now.
Yeah, I don't have time to have my own subroutine. You're just calling me all the time. I don't know. What does my brain do before I go to sleep? I don't know, but I definitely don't plan out my conversations with you.
For years, every single night, without fail, what I used to do when I was a kid is I would imagine a little movie. And every night I would imagine the next part of it. I was essentially writing a movie in my head. And for years, it was an ongoing story. For probably about 7 years, it was the same movie. It was about an android. And I thought it would be so cool to follow a self-healing android that can't be destroyed, essentially immortal. It starts off as a human, a cyborg, with cybernetic implants. And let's say you cut off a hand, then the machinery grows it back. So over many, many years, over thousands of years, eventually he's fully robotic. When I was a kid, that blew my mind. I was like, wait a minute, is he still the same person? Is he even still human if no part of him is biological anymore? But there is the continuity of memories and self-awareness and consciousness. That's the kind of stuff I was thinking about as a kid.
It's like the ship of Theseus.
Yes, but I thought of it organically. I didn't read about it. I came up with the ship of Theseus.
That's pretty impressive. They should call it the ship of Gil.
That's right. I got to think of something complimentary to say to you, because you're being so nice to me. And no more DPDs. Daniel, put down starting now. Go ahead.
Sometimes when I have trouble sleeping, I also come up with movies in my head, but my movies are so boring. I never get past the opening and I just fall right asleep.
What is that?
Hey,
no
DPT? No DPD.
Hey, right. Well, you kind of did it yourself.
You're like, no, but true. It's true.
What?
I
Give
really
me an
do.
example.
I don't like. I'll come up with a cool sci-fi premise, like I'm going through space, but then I can't figure out what happens next. So I'm just going through space.
The human mind is capable of conjuring up anything. There are no limits to imagination that we've found yet. And this isn't a put down, it's just an observation that over the many years you've been on this planet, that's what you thought of is going to space.
No, I'm already in space. I'm going
I
through
can
space.
I can confidently say, here's a compliment. I think you would fit right in at the Mandalorian writers room. I think you could get in. Well, so reasons I'm not sleeping. Number one, I can't. I get in bed and my brain just doesn't turn off. Number two, I've been working late trying to get the Arkham video done. And actually, right before this stream, I got it done. It's finished as far as I know, but I have to do my final watch through. And I'm so sleep deprived that as I was watching it, I was 30 minutes in and I was like, I have not been paying attention. I don't know what's going on right now. So I was like, I have to table it. It's not coming out today. So tomorrow morning, wake up, fresh, bushy-tailed, and watch it. And then publish it. I'm really excited about that. I am excited about it. This is my first legitimate attempt at a video game video on this channel. We've done little video game streams here and there. I did a 10-minute video when the new Monkey Island was announced, which if you try to narrow down this channel, what is the strategy of this channel? What are the types of videos we make? I don't know where you should be excited about Return to Monkey Island fits in. But those were the days when we were trying to figure all that out. We're still trying to figure it out. We always are.
It fits in somewhere. It fits in somewhere next to Raised by Wolves episode by episode reviews.
That's kind of a Gil put down. That's good. I want you to
There you
insult
go,
me more.
GPD.
Now you helped me with a lot of those videos, though.
That helped a lot. Hey, those videos early on in the channel, those videos were huge for us.
That's true.
Only later on,
they were great. Not just in terms of viewership, but in terms of life experience. First time I got screeners, which I thought was a big deal, and then I go on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm like, they hand these things out like candy, apparently. And but the big thing though is that I got to interview Aaron Guzikowski, the showrunner of Raised by Wolves, the writer of Prisoners, directed by. Look at that! Look at that! That's a lot of software does that now, where the thumbs up bubble pops up. Anyway, that was an awesome just life experience. Reason number 3, I haven't been sleeping. On top of the other 2, we've been puppy sitting, and the first night she had a lot of. I'm trying to do a heart here. She had a lot of separation anxiety from her owner, so was just crying all night, whining all night, so couldn't really sleep. And then the next night, she reattached herself to us, so no longer had separation anxiety to her owner, but now had separation anxiety to us because we're not letting her sleep in the bed with us. And then the next day, I'm so sleep deprived. I haven't slept because of the puppy and all these other reasons. I'm like, okay, time to get to work. But somehow, I didn't know between me and my girlfriend who is the puppy going to attach herself to. I wanted it to be me. I mean, in some ways I didn't because I would have felt bad if she clearly preferred me. But I tried my best. Like I was the good cop. Anytime my girlfriend yelled at her after she left the room, I'd be like, don't worry, you didn't do anything wrong. You're great. Keep doing what you're doing. But somehow she has identified her as like the mother figure. If I leave, she's fine. But if my girlfriend leaves, she starts whining and crying. So when I sat down to work, it was basically impossible. So between those 3 things, I'm on very little sleep right now. But I have the adrenaline of a great video that's about to come out. And yeah, I shouldn't say that. A great video. That's too self-congratulatory. There's a video I'm excited about. It's a video I'm excited about. So that's where we're at. Oh, a couple funny things though. You're always learning new things with YouTube, and I'm entering a new frontier now of video game videos. I've always been excited to do that because when you make a video about movies or TV shows, you have to think a lot about copyright claims. I have developed a system where I am very careful. I think more careful than most people. One thing that's universally agreed upon is no movie music, no score from the movie. That's the thing they go after the hardest. Then the thing where I'm a little bit more aggressive is you have to limit the length of each clip you use. I don't ever go above 3 seconds, sometimes 4 or 5, but I've seen other channels, they go up to 7, 10 seconds, so we're very aggressive with that. Anyway, I've always been jealous of video game content. They will literally put up a 12-hour video of the entire game beginning to end. So in my mind, that is the dream scenario starring Nicolas Cage. No copyright concerns. If you can show the entire game, what possible copyright concern could there be for a recap where I'm only showing about 15 to 20 minutes of the game and it's mostly my narration over it with very little in-game audio? So I was putting in a lot of cutscenes. If there was a great line from Batman, I let him say it. Why should I say it when I have Kevin Conroy's voice or Mark Hamill's voice as Joker? And then I got a little paranoid the other night. I was like, wait a minute. There's a lot of great music in this game. It's a great soundtrack. It's as good as the score as any of the Batman movies. Why would they be okay with me using this music, but not the movie music? Are they okay with it? So I Googled Arkham Games music copyright claims. And I saw all these horror stories of people who were streaming on Twitch. A bunch of claims popped up. So I figured I got to be safe here. And so today I spent about 4 hours going through the 3-hour video, and anywhere I had score from the game behind dialogue, I stripped it out. Sometimes that meant taking out the clip, but sometimes I counted on it being there. So if I take it out, the script no longer makes sense. So there's an AI tool that will strip out the music and isolate the vocals. But the problem is it also strips out the sound effects. So if Batman's punching Joker right now, it's just silent. So then I also went back in. I added in my own sound effects, explosions, gunshots, punching. It works surprisingly well. But that is what I spent a lot of time on today. And there was another fun AI tool. Not sometimes, every time I'm doing my final review, listening back through my whole video, I'll find a couple mistakes where I said the wrong word, I mispronounced something. So I had a mispronunciation today. It was a bad one. King Shark. Instead of shark, I ended the word with a T. I think I was mixing it up with your nickname in high school. I didn't want to badmouth you, but I thought of that joke earlier today, and it's been in my back pocket. So let's just say starting now. But there's a new AI tool where you give it a sample of your voice, you put in your audio, and if you made a mistake, you just retype the correction, and it will generate your voice saying the correct words. And it works okay. If you use it for more than one or two words, I think it would sound weird. And now that I told everybody what the correction is, if you listen for it, you'll definitely hear, oh, that sounds a little weird. But at least I say shark now in a Gil AI voice. That was fun. Daniel, you had a little update. Something you were excited about.
Is that coming up organically?
Yeah, because this is something I'm excited about. And I hear something you're excited about.
Something I'm excited about
let me just say this. The One Take update, it doesn't have to be about the channel. It could be about the One Take family, which includes you, me, Rob K, Sarah Elizabeth, Greg Beasy, all these people.
Wow. Greg Beasy, Sarah Elizabeth, Rob K, Alun, One Take. Who else? Hack the movies.
Just taking
I'd
notes
like
and
to
stuff
tell all
I
of you.
have to cut out from the when I repost this.
Wait, why do you have to cut that out?
People don't want to just. That's my least favorite part of live streams is
like,
shout outs and listing names.
Yeah.
I know I was just doing it, and I'm giving myself a little, don't do that.
Well, anyway, I want to share some news. For folks who have been listening to this for a while, they would know that I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I just got promoted to blue belt on Monday night, which is extremely exciting. There's 5 belts in Jiu-Jitsu. Are you doing a sound effect? Yeah.
Oh, oops.
There are 5 belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was a white belt, which is the belt you get when you first start. I just got promoted to blue. After blue, there's purple, brown, black. It can take many, many years to progress between belts. It's a very big step, and I'm extremely excited about it.
That's awesome, man. Congrats. How do you get? I have 2 questions. One, how long does it usually take to get to the blue belt? How long did it take you? And how do they know when you're ready? Describe it to me. Paint a picture.
I think the amount of time it takes is extremely variable based off the amount people are training. So I was training for about a year, and I was training 3 to 6 times a week. Some weeks like 7 times. So I was training a lot, like in comparison to the average, and it took me about a year. I think for a lot of people, it takes 1 to 2 years, sometimes 3 years. Like it can take a while.
Mhm.
And then I think to get from blue to purple can be several more years than that. How they know you when you're ready, there's not specific requirements. Like they're not looking, from what I understand, for like very specific moves. They're really just watching generally the way that you train, the way that you roll. So in jujitsu, rolling is basically like sparring. It's where you're fighting with somebody, you're trying to kill them, and they see your technique in doing that. I do think it's one of those things where like people who are experienced at jujitsu, black belts, like they watch people roll, they can sort of tell like what level they're at.
So basically, they were watching you, and it's sort of a qualitative assessment. They thought you're ready. How did you find out? Like, Daniel, come to my office. You started sweating. Like, oh no, this is the king incident all over again.
So it's always a surprise the way it happens. So just at the end of class, I actually had one of my most brutal classes too. I'm training with all these upper belts, so more advanced people. And in this, sometimes I leave class feeling really good, where like I like really just like beat up a bunch of people, and my technique was all good. Like I felt great. Monday night's class, like I felt horrible. Like a lot of people really like literally smashed me, like literally all of their body weight like on my face, choking me, almost breaking my arm. Just
It was like Bane picking up
miserable.
Batman in Dark Knight Rises.
It was pretty horrible.
You needed someone to hang you from a rope and punch you in the back after to unparalyze you.
And so, I mean, I felt horrible. I remember like legitimately thinking, man, I'm not going to get promoted to blue belt for 6 months. Like that was what I was thinking at the end of class. And then the Professor Raphael, he announces that we're giving away a blue belt today. He says my name and asked me to come up. And I legitimately, I so did not expect it that I looked around in case he said somebody else's name. Like I waited 3 seconds to see if somebody else went up. And then when nobody else was getting up and he was looking at me, I was like, oh, okay, I guess I got to get up. And then as I stood, I was so cautious. And then anyway, I go up, he takes the new belt, the blue belt, and like whips you with it and then puts it on you. And then everyone congratulates you.
Can you demonstrate some moves like on that table over there or something?
We'll do it.
Actually,
it'll be on the Patreon.
I got to grab something. Why don't you vamp for a second? You can keep talking about jujitsu. Tell like a funny jujitsu story about that thing with your eye. Remember that?
That wasn't a funny story. So the jujitsu has been a long and arduous journey. Actually, I first walked into the jujitsu academy that I train at in 2017. And I trained for several months, but I couldn't be consistent because I used to work a job where I would travel several days a week. So my jujitsu journey goes back a long time, but finally this last year, I've had a stable life. I've been able to train consistently, except for a few hiccups. There was one time where somebody actually kicked me in the face, and that is very much not supposed to be a part of jiu-jitsu. In fact, it wasn't even the guy I was training with that kicked me in the face. It was just somebody training near me, just swung his leg and kicked me in the face. And after that, I started to see some flashes.
It was really annoying. Daniel kept turning to us, and he's like, is someone taking pictures of us? What's going on here?
I kept like, it actually took me 2 weeks. So after this incident, I get hit in the face. And I swear to God, for 2 weeks, I kept going like this. What was that? What was that? Like I legitimately just kept turning, thinking there was something there. And it did not occur to me for 2 weeks that maybe it had something to do with the fact that I'd gotten hit in the head right next to my eye. And
wait, what?
No, no way.
Oh, wait, this old thing? This thing?
Oh my God. Did you get one?
Yeah, I picked it up on Monday. Down, tell the folks at home what you're looking at here.
Oh my God. Gil's wearing a Vision Pro. You bastard. How have you had this?
I'm not actually doing anything
Monday?
Right now.
God damn it. I want to try it. I want to come over tonight.
All right, Let me take this off and we can talk about this.
Wait, why? Can't you see me?
Well, okay. I can see you, but well, you want to jump into it?
Yes.
All right, so I've had the Vision Pro now since Monday, so about 48 hours. I haven't had a lot of time to sit down and just use it for a very extended session, but I used it for about 3 hours today and 3 hours yesterday. Now, if you watch this live stream, then you saw me debating whether or not to get one. The reason I wanted one is I wanted more productivity, and I thought it would be very cool to, one, get into an immersive environment, and number two, yeah, it's like Minority Report. You can just have screens floating everywhere. And I justified it to myself like this. Number one, it's a business expense. I'm reviewing it right now. That's a tax write-off. I have not used it for entertainment once, and I'm going to make sure I have no fun using this device. Number two, the same is true for my MacBook. And I realize I forgot to put it on my expenses last year. So that means I've got a tax credit coming back for the MacBook. And I figured this thing's basically free, you know? It would be stupid not to get it. The shocking thing is if you subtract that money, how much I still had to pay for it, I don't even want to say. I'll tell you after. So, is it good? Do you want to know, Daniel?
Yes.
Number one, a lot of the reviews, oh no, it's low battery. A lot of the reviews were downplaying, here's what Apple showed you, here's the reality. They were trying to temper expectations. One of the obvious ones is that if you look at any of the Vision Pro advertisements, they show the eyes in the front and they look great. With these, it's super foggy. You can barely see them. And if you can make them out, they're just kind of creepy. That's the one obvious one. But from the inside, when you're looking out, they'll point out that it doesn't look quite like reality. They'll say it's very, very close. But from the reviews I watched, it made it sound like it was 95% of the way there. Honestly, my immediate reaction putting it on, I would say it's more like 75% of the way there. No part of you is tricked into thinking you're seeing reality. One of the most obvious things is you don't have a complete field of view. You actually see a black border the entire time, like you're wearing goggles. There is no peripheral vision. There's a certain fuzziness to everything. People will say, oh, you can read text. And it's true, you can, but it's going to take work. You have to kind of squint. You know, if you're looking at your phone, you can just barely make it out. You can't really see text very well. Not that you need to. The text you're looking at is going to be virtual. But that was the first thing I noticed. And then to the productivity point, the main way you're going to be productive with this thing, and I was worried from the get-go, because when they talk about what this thing can do, it's you can watch movies, you can play Fruit Ninja, and then they're like, you can mirror your Mac. Anyway, moving on. And wait a minute. Can you use this thing to actually get work done? Because that's, I feel like maybe the most important thing if you're selling essentially a MacBook Pro that you can strap to your eyes. I accidentally just opened up a menu by moving my hands a certain way. Let me go to the moon right now. There we go. I'm on the moon. I can't even see you anymore. While I'm describing that, by the way, there's this little toggle on top that can control how immersed you are. There's a lot of little things that I'm surprised about, because when you think Apple, what you think is it just works versus other devices that are hard to figure out. And I would say if you compare this to any other VR headset, by miles, it's ahead on that front. I tried to get my Quest and use it for work, like pull up a monitor virtually, and I gave up. I know Adam's done it. It's definitely doable. But with this, within minutes, I have it set up. So it can do it. It can mirror your Mac, and it's pretty damn cool. That was the first time I had my mind blown by this thing. Because I'll be honest, at first, I was having so many little annoying issues that I was like, what did I do? This thing, it was pretty disappointing because a lot of little annoying things, like I said. For example, I had my keyboard synced up with it, and somebody wrote me a text message. So I start writing back to them. And for some reason, the shift key became tied to dictation. So if I press shift, it pops up with a little window so I can talk and it'll dictate for me. The shift didn't do that before, but suddenly it just became that's what the shift button does. So I couldn't capitalize letters. I was trying to write a colon, and I was like, why do I keep seeing this little window pop up? And then finally I figured it out. Little things like that. This scroll wheel, to control how immersed you are. Sometimes it just doesn't respond. Like I'm scrolling it right now, nothing's happening. And then like 5-10 seconds later, suddenly the moon will pop up. But the first time where I was legitimately, wow, this is great, is when I mirrored my Mac. And so I had a virtual monitor and I made it the size of a movie theater and edited a video that way. Video editing is one of those things where personally, to me, it feels like the more screen real estate, the better. So you're sacrificing certain things. For example, when you look at the screen, the way this thing saves computing power, it can track exactly where your eyes are. So it only fully renders whatever you're looking at. So you'll look at one spot on the screen, that's clear, but out of your peripheral vision, the rest of it's kind of blurry, which in reality is how your eyes work. Your peripheral vision is blurry. The thing is, and this is one area where people downplayed it, they were like, you're going to notice it, but it's not a big deal. I'm not going to say it's a big deal, but the theme for me is that everything that was downplayed in the reviews, I would downplay them a bit further. To some extent, it feels like you have a blurry monitor in front of you and you have a tool you can use to just focus certain parts of the screen because it happens pretty fast, but not so fast you don't notice it. But editing video on a movie theater sized screen in my living room, it was kind of worth the trade-off. It was pretty great. And I did that for a few hours today. The other thing to note, though, on the downsides for productivity, you pull up the virtual display. And by the way, I see a bunch of stuff in the chat, but I really can't read it. Unless, hold on, let me connect. I'm going to pull up the virtual display. I probably shouldn't have done that. This might just break the stream right now.
Oh,
you still
God.
see me?
Yes.
Okay, amazing. So now I have like a 200, I have like an 80-inch display in front of me right now. And now I can see the chat. This is great.
So wait, where am I?
So you're in front of me right now versus you were over
Wait,
here
you
before.
could have streamed with your persona, right?
So I think you can, I don't know if they have a way to take your persona and feed it into StreamYard, for example. Like I'm sure somebody will develop a way to just turn it into a virtual webcam where anything that uses your webcam, you can just feed your persona into it. And by the way, I'll send you a picture of my persona later. It looks super weird and creepy, but I talked to our older brother. I wanted to keep it a surprise for you, but I FaceTimed our older brother the other day. And he said that after a couple minutes, you just sort of get used to it and it stops being weird. But he took a screenshot of it. It looks really creepy. And when you're FaceTiming, they don't show you a video of yourself. And I think it's on purpose because they don't want people to just see their own persona and be like, wait, that's what people are seeing right now? Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. So the other note on productivity, when you have your virtual display, you can only do one. What are you laughing at?
It's just so funny seeing you like looking around as you're talking.
Do you see my eyes? You see, you don't see my. Well, I guess it only shows your eyes if there's somebody in the room to see them. So right now, it probably just thinks I'm alone, so it's not displaying them. But yesterday, I looked in the mirror and I was able to just barely make them out.
That's so weird.
You can only do one display. And a lot of the work I do really benefits from having two displays. So what I found myself doing yesterday is if I was doing a task where one display is fine, I'm like, all right, let me switch to Vision Pro mode. All right, let me take it off. I'm going to a 2-monitor task. And in some ways, you can do 2 monitors because you can have your Mac OS mirrored display, and then you can open up Vision apps. So for example, there's a native Vision app called, Safari. And so I figured, all right, I'll open up Google Sheets in this other window over here, and then I have my main display here. And you're supposed to be able to move your mouse to the edge of your Mac display, and then the mouse will continue into the app. So it essentially acts like a second monitor. It just wouldn't work. I couldn't find any way to make it happen. And then later, suddenly, it worked. It's just like the shift key all over again. Or sometimes when I'm looking at my Mac display, my scroll wheel will get inverted. Normally, I use where when you scroll up, it goes up, but it'll switch to natural scrolling where scrolling down goes up because it's like you're swiping down on a screen. Just little weird quirks like that. Eventually, I got it working so you can essentially have a second display as long as it's a native Vision OS app. But it just doesn't work as seamlessly as a true second display. For example, if I go over to Google Sheets, I have my keyboard. The usual keyboard shortcuts don't work in the Vision OS app the way they do if you're using it on your actual computer. So for me right now, True Displays is basically a no-go. So that was the thing that, I mean, really, to be honest, right now, if you have something where a bigger screen is helpful, this thing's pretty great. Not amazing, but pretty great. And I could definitely see the potential of it. And I think I will actually legitimately use it. The one thing I'm not sure of yet. So like I said, there were two things where I was hoping this was really going to help. One, it was just screen real estate for video editing. But the second thing is, you know, as a content creator, the other thing I spend a lot of my time on is writing. And a lot of times when I'm having a hard time writing, just changing locations will help just get through the writer's block and restart the mindset. One thing I've noticed is putting this on, I think does activate the part of my brain that thinks I've now moved to another location. Like if my office is a little messy, just turn up the dial. It's okay, I no longer see my office. Now I see a beautiful mountain and a lake. I haven't tried really writing with this yet though, just a little bit. So if I sit in this thing for 2 or 3 hours, will it A, give me the same feeling as going somewhere else? But more than that, will it just create an immersion where I don't get distracted? Because it is very easy to get distracted where I'm like, oh, let me check my stats. Let me, check my messages or whatever. See if I have any voicemails. When's the last time you checked your voicemail? So that's kind of the next test to see if I really get some value out of this.
So this is a really dumb use case, but it just got me thinking is like, it's nice to just read in interesting locations. Like, you could read at a coffee shop, you could read in nature. Like, I wonder what the experience would be like is like using VR to put myself in some cool place to read and then pulling up a book, like a huge book in front of me. Maybe actually you don't want a book to be that big, but like then the text is right in front of me. Well, then your eyes are moving too much as you're reading, right? But like the book is just held in front of me, like in the exact right spot that I want it to be. Mm-hmm. And I can just sit however I want and then like have this virtual cool location. It's just like pulling up a Netflix screen in front of me.
I just wanted to make you huge. So now you're like a movie theater.
That's so cool.
I have like a 150-inch display in front of me right now, where they're just like right above me. I mean, watching movies on this thing is really cool too. And you can watch in 3D. I watched Mad Max Fury Road for a few minutes in 3D, and it was awesome. You and our older brother, it's so funny. There's well, I don't want to say how many there are because that's kind of a secret, but you can kind of group us into pairs where like I'm a lot like Alun, and then you're a lot like Oren, because that was the first thing he said too. He's like, I can read a book on the moon. But one problem with this right now is there is a lot of basic apps you'd expect to have on here that you don't. There's no Kindle app.
Is Apple Books on there?
I don't know. I searched Kindle.
No, it must be. It must be because there's an iPad app for it. iPad apps are all available on Vision Pro.
Right, as long as a developer hasn't gone in and said, "Don't make this available," because there are some that you can't get there.
Kindle must be on there. Maybe not. No. Amazon was Amazon Prime. They might have been like boycotting Vision Pro like the other tech companies.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know Disney Plus is on here. And then, I mean, you can watch Amazon, for example, because you can mirror your Mac display and watch it that way. HBO Max has a native app, and they have immersion mode where you can watch in a location. Right now, the only option is the throne room. So you can sit in the throne room from Game of Thrones and watch a movie.
That's pretty cool.
One little thing is I am somebody that will fidget a lot and I want things to be just right. And like when I have my monitor up, I just spend all this time fidgeting with it to be like, is it in the exact right position? Is it centered? And there should be just a default office mode where it puts your monitor based on where you're sitting in a location that makes sense. Because that's one problem is I keep moving it closer, further away, and I just keep messing with it. And when I pull up multiple screens, it just starts to feel messy. I don't think that'll be a problem for most people, but I think that's one aspect where you and I are probably similar, and you're going to have the same issue where you're like, I don't know where to put this hologram. Any questions for me, Daniel, now that I got my hands on this alien tech?
When can I try it?
Yeah, whenever you want. When you want to come over.
Yeah, can we tell everybody where we're flying to next week?
I think you said it on the last stream anyway.
Okay. Yeah, we have a 16-hour flight to China soon. Gil, is the plan for you to use that the entire flight?
I don't know if I want to bring it. I'm a little nervous. I mean, this thing costs a lot of money, and
wait, but you have insurance and stuff. Like renter's insurance
sure, yeah.
even might cover it. I would
have
check.
Apple Care too. Also,
Yeah,
this is funny. I was so self-conscious about it on two fronts. Like one, it's brand new technology that I just got within the first few days of release. So I was like, are people going to see it and be like, what is that? Can I see it? Or on the other hand, I was afraid people might judge me because so many people are saying, what kind of idiot would spend that much money to buy one of these? So I was, I don't know what I was expecting, but I walked out nervous from the Apple store. Like either there's going to be a parade where everyone's going to break out into a musical number to celebrate that Gil got the Vision Pro, or people were just going to be like, what's wrong with you, you idiot? Cyclops? Why would you buy that? Oh, yeah, you have a big screen? You're just going to fidget with it. You can't even figure out where to put your actual monitor. Now, you can see through the monitor like a hologram. Bravo. That's kind of what I was expecting. So I don't know if I want to bring this on the plane. We'll talk.
You have to bring it. You have to bring it.
I mean, it would be my plan is to work the entire trip. I mean, the entire flight with this thing. To work, I could be on the moon, on a plane, and I could write stuff.
Honestly, I'm thinking of just getting one now so I can use it on the plane.
Oh, yeah.
Can I get them, or are they like fully out of stock?
No, it's not like other Apple products. This one was not flying off the shelves. I ordered it Sunday and I got it Monday. The one annoying thing, I could use your advice here. Or are there any, what is it called? People who can prescribe glasses. Optometrist?
Yeah.
Sarah, are you an optometrist, or Rob? Is anybody a vision doctor? Because they make little lenses that go in here if you wear glasses. And you have to upload a copy of your prescription. Mine expired about a year ago. Warby Parker has an app where you can take a vision test at home. Doctor reviews it. A few hours later, they send you a digital prescription. I uploaded it, and Apple denied it because they said my age isn't written on the prescription. And I was like, can I just edit the PDF and just put my age, or is that medical fraud? I emailed Warby Parker. I was like, can you just add my age to this? They haven't gotten back to me. And there's a deadline. I have to upload the prescription soon. I don't want to leave my house. I've transcended the physical world. I live in here now. So unless there's a Vision OS app to give me an eye exam, I'm never getting these lenses. And maybe that's why the screens are all blurry.
Wait, so they're going to ship you the lenses?
They take about 7 to 10 days to ship. They go through Zeiss.
That's so interesting. But can I get, well, I guess I don't have a prescription, but if you had a prescription, can you give it to them when you order the Vision Pro so it comes with the lenses?
No, because Apple doesn't make them. It's Zeiss. And they're not going to have them at the store. They ship separately.
Wait, it's so weird. I think we already talked about this. It is so funny that you still need glasses when wearing VR. Like, why can't it display it in a way where you can see it? That's just crazy.
I know. I mean, if we had an ophthalmologist in the chat, like I asked, then, we would have an answer to this.
Is there an optometrist in the building? Anybody?
All right, Daniel, anything else in the Vision Pro?
I mean, I'm really excited about it. It looks cool. I watched a video earlier today of Casey Neistat wearing it, and he just like was skateboarding through New York City and stuff with it on. Man, it's crazy.
All right, I'm gonna take it off. I want to
try it.
You have to vamp for a second. Tell another amusing anecdote.
Why? What do you need to do when you take it off? Oh, I guess because the headphones come off and stuff. I never finished the story about my eye incident. We were pretty close to the end. Basically, I got hit on the side of my head, and it caused my retina.
Wait, are you telling the same story again?
I never finished it. I didn't finish the story. I'm near the end.
Ugh, back in reality.
Basically,
I hate this place. Surrounded by meat bags and objects that I can't phase through. This sucks.
Yo, I was telling my story.
All right, go ahead.
And anyway, so the flashes were caused by a little bit of damage to my retina.
The Flash? Justice League. Sorry, go ahead.
It came up naturally. We'll get to it in a second. Basically, my retina was like being tugged at just a little bit, causing these like flashes. And basically, there was a risk that my retina would detach. And if it detaches, it's really bad. You need surgery.
I kept trying to grab it. I was going to detach your retina. I couldn't get a hold of it.
If your retina detaches, you need surgery within like 24 to 48 hours or something like that, or else like you could go blind. The good news was that whole time, it's like I knew is like if I just get this emergency surgery, I'll be fine. And it's like a very safe, easy procedure, but it was pretty scary and made me much more cautious with jiu-jitsu. It can be safe, but stuff can happen.
I wasn't going to say anything negative about you, and I'm not going to. I'm just going to observe the fact that we are hemorrhaging listeners thanks to your story. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not even saying it's a bad thing. Maybe it's a good thing, somehow. Just an observation.
You know what, Tony? Unsubscribe if you don't want to hear my story about my retinal potential detachment, because we're changing this channel. It's becoming an optometry channel, all about the eye.
All right. Sorry, I had to subject you guys to that. All right, Daniel, here you go. I'm putting you in timeout.
I learned my lesson.
All right, are you ready for the next item on the agenda?
Yeah, what other piece of tech are you going to surprise me with?
No, that's about it. That's going to be the last of the tech for a while, I think. Also, I sold a bunch of your stuff, by the way. Ready for some Gil Reads comics? I wasn't going to play the starting because I don't know where it is, but I feel like it might be nice, help us get in the mood to play it. But if I can't find it in like 7 seconds. Oh, wait, I have it. You ready?
There is an epidemic affecting.
Oops.
What happened?
Everywhere. Comic books. Comics everywhere. Avengers, Batman, Wonder Woman, and they're in movies now, too. In the real world, there is no good and evil. Enough! I'm reading comics, and no one's gonna stop me.
Trying to sync up with the starting. I never can get that right. You ready to talk about comics?
Let's do it.
This week, we are talking about the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League tie-in comic called Suicide Squad Kill Arkham. This is a prequel to the game, kind of explains the events that lead up to it. And Daniel, just very briefly on the game, because we're going to talk about it more after this in Gaming with Gil. The plot line, the controversial plot line, is that Brainiac has mind-controlled the Justice League, turned them evil, and now the Suicide Squad have to kill them. So this comic leads up to the events. Don't ask me any questions about the plot. We're going to save that for Gaming with Gil. You read this comic?
I did.
All right. Well, let's jump into it, and then we'll give our overall thoughts. But feel free to give your thoughts as we go. Essentially, we start with a bunch of criminals being shipped into the freshly rebuilt and improved Arkham Asylum. Nobody's getting in or out without Amanda Waller say so. And some of the prisoners they brought in, you got Floyd Lawton, Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, and King Shark. A lot of the issue is just about setting up the status quo. Jim Gordon, you got promoted to Blue Belt. This guy got promoted to Mayor. This whole game series chronicled him going from just a regular old GCPD officer. He became commissioner because Joker masquerading as Black Mask executed Commissioner Loeb. And then after the Mr. Freeze incident, they figured this guy, Jim Gordon's doing a pretty good job. And then Batman gave him hope that he could turn things around. Jim Gordon's mayor now. And Amanda Waller from the government, Argus, a little important group in the U.S. government, she is sick and tired of people escaping Arkham all the time. How many times is Joker going to break out like some kind of a gas that just expands to fill whatever space it's in and then leaks out like a certain somebody I might know, Ralph? She's sick of it, so she's taken over and she has fortified Arkham. Nobody's getting in or out without her say so. But Jim Gordon has a little chat with Harley Quinn, and he's like, what do you think of this place? And at first she gives a very Harley Quinn answer. Like, this place is terrible. Look at these walls and the floor. The colors don't go together at all. And then he says, I'd like your clinical diagnosis now, Dr. Quinzel. And then she goes into doctor mode and gives a legitimate answer. Basically, there's a bunch of subtle things happening where clearly Amanda Waller is trying to turn up the temperature, turn this place into a powder keg that's ready to explode. By the way, did you find that humorous? The way she's crazy and then she switches into doctor mode?
I did. I let out, I didn't laugh, but I like let out a little more like exhalation when I read that part.
Like that?
Yeah.
Batman.
Less snide than that.
Yeah. So earlier, Batman brought in Killer Croc, and then Killer Croc woke up. Batman came back to take him down again. Now, how did Batman even get into the Arkham Asylum? And he tells Amanda, this place is not as secure as you think. And then he gives a little status quo update that feels... This was the example, Vince Gilligan, creator of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. There's an example he always gives about exposition, where characters will unnaturally say something that's for the audience's benefit and not something they would ever actually say organically. The challenge came up in the first episode of Better Call Saul. You have two characters who are brothers. How do you tell the audience they're brothers? And he's like, you could have one of them walk in, hey, Chuck, we've been brothers for how long? We haven't talked in, 10 years? They say something like that where it's an obvious expositional line for the audience. I feel like that's what we're seeing here, where Batman just goes into this rant. I will always be here to stop the monsters, to put an end to evil, to keep good people safe. As will the Justice League, which is why I joined them, for Gotham, for Metropolis, for wherever we are needed. The Justice League will always be there. Which I personally like to imagine that Batman is a man of few words. He speaks when necessary. He's not Peter Parker making quips here and there. He might give an inspirational speech like this when someone needs it. Tim Drake, maybe Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon, maybe a little kid who's just down in the dumps, needs a coat put around him. Jim Gordon in Batman Begins, called back in Dark Knight Rises. But this, I didn't. This was kind of lame. Amanda Waller doesn't need this speech.
Yeah. Also, weren't they a little lax with Killer Croc? Like, I felt like they were just chilling with Killer Croc just lying there.
That
like,
was
they were not in a rush.
Too.
Yeah.
Batman knocked him unconscious after a pretty difficult battle, you imagine. And they even say, this guy's not going to be unconscious forever. We should probably take care of him. And everyone's just casually sitting around until he wakes up. And then thank God Batman was there to put him back down.
And he's this like giant monster, like nowhere near on par, even with King Shark, like nowhere near on par.
No.
Anyway.
Then all hell breaks loose. All that stuff I told you about before, where the Justice League get their brains controlled by Brainiac. That happens, but no one really knows what's going on yet from their perspective. The Justice League is missing. All hell's broken loose. And Amanda Waller says, no Justice League, we need a plan B. Or should I say a plan X. Task Force X, the official name of what we colloquially refer to as the Suicide Squad. So she says, release the prisoners. And that's after she's been turning up the temperature. That powder keg is going to explode in the next issue.
Wait, so what's her goal with releasing the prisoners?
They didn't say it yet, but I think I read it in just the overall synopsis of this series. She wants everybody to fight, and whoever survives or does a good job in the fight, it's kind of like you in jiu-jitsu. They're the survivors. They're the ones who are going to get recruited to this iteration of the Suicide Squad. Are you chomping at the bit for issue 2? What did you think of issue 1?
Is it chomping at the bit? Wasn't it like a saying that we realized we were saying wrong? Like it's champing at the bit or something?
I don't think. You're thinking of Rewrite the Wheel. And stop stalling. You're like, I don't know what to say about this. Give
Wait,
the
what am I
opinion.
supposed to say?
You
I
don't even
enjoyed
get
it.
to hear. I know you want me to
enjoyed
give
it.
my opinion first, and then you can be like, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, it's not the same quality as the Spider-Man comic we read like 3 or 4 weeks ago, which I was disappointed to hear there's not going to be another issue for like another month.
February
But it
21st.
was- yeah, but it was like it was a nice comic. I don't know.
That's kind of how I
wasn't
felt
blown away
about
by
it. It was just, I mean, I would generally say I felt more negative toward it than anything, but there were some enjoyable aspects. I would say I came up with this formula last week when I was talking on Tony's live stream. I was trying to think about what are the things that keep you engaged in a story. There's empathy for the main character, so you hope for a certain outcome. That hope keeps you reading because you want to see, is it going to happen or not? Are they going to survive? Are they going to persevere? There's also curiosity. I just want to know what's going to happen. It could be mystery box style, like Lost. Forget character development. I want to know what's in the box. I would say here, there's no real empathy. There's no characters to latch onto. There's no real curiosity because I know where it's leading. I've seen the entire story from the game, which is where this all is heading to. And there could be curiosity about how we got there. But on that front, I'm less interested in how she picked out these 4 characters, Harley Quinn, Boomerang, etc. I kind of figured she went to Arkham. She wanted some main bad guys, from Batman's Rogues Gallery. She doesn't want to go to C-level villains, so she picked these 4. I don't really care how she picked them. What I care about in terms of how we got to the game is, when did Brainiac show up? What did the Justice League go through? Did Batman try and fight the mental conditioning? That's the stuff that on a pure curiosity level I'd want to see. But I don't really care about what happened in Arkham leading up to the game. And this comic hasn't shown me anything to suggest I should care. So to me, the only thing that keeps you engaged with this story is the art. It's good art. Nice seeing these characters. And some funny moments.
It was cool when what's his name, King Shark. Well, first of all, it was funny when he got called President Shark, and he's like, "I'm not an elected official."
That's the general humor you get from King Shark. Yeah. He's a lot like a Drax character.
Yeah.
So the Suicide Squad movie from James Gunn went one way where he was just a total dullard. This one, he's not. He has some intelligence, but he can't understand sarcasm and stuff.
And then it was like really satisfying and funny when he just ate Zaz's head off.
It's also funny because Zaz is not just a nobody character. He's been in a bunch of the games. He's shown up in a lot of Batman comics. But that's the fun of playing in a separate, non-mainstream continuity. You can kill Zaz as a punchline. Though King Shark was also killed as a punchline years ago. I mentioned earlier that there was an animated movie that was meant to be in the Arkham continuity called Assault on Arkham, where Amanda Waller gets the Suicide Squad together. King Shark is on the team, and they always have these little nano bombs in their neck. So if they disobey orders, it blows up. They find Riddler. He's able to deactivate them. But when she hits the button, everyone's fine, but King Shark's head explodes. And he's like, oh, I guess he has thicker skin I didn't account for when I did the procedure. But it was a different looking King Shark. I think essentially they erased it from continuity, but I still included it in my video. So I guess those are our overall thoughts, right? Not a great comic, not a must read by any stretch, but a little bit of fun. And to some degree, I'm curious to see where it goes. We got a decent amount of Batman in this issue, and that's the side of things I'd be more interested in, is what's happening to the Justice League. I want to see some of the steps involved there. But I want to be clear. When I say want, it's like 10% want. I would be fine if I went the rest of my life and never knew.
So I did like, and this is more of like a meta comment, but I liked the few times where they were like, find out more about what happened in, like this studio's game, Arkham Asylum or whatever. Like, there's just something very comforting about something like that. Like, it's just such an old school sort of advertisement. It was like the same thing with like the comics we saw last week, right? Yeah. There's just something like so straightforward and genuine about that marketing. that I just really like.
Some might say it's a little, I don't know the right word for it, but manipulative. Oh, you enjoyed this, but you want to know what happened between these panels? Go buy the game. I'll sit
It's
here.
not
I'll wait.
manipulative.
Yeah, I guess it couldn't be more straightforward.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you enjoyed this? You might enjoy this other thing. Please
Yeah,
check
it's
it
great.
out.
All right. Any other thoughts, Daniel, on this issue before we switch gears and go over to Gaming with Gil?
No, let's cue the intro music.
I don't have it ready, but I guess it's just a button. I can just press it. Let's do it. I don't have the screen I can pull up though this time. Let's get rid of this comic. Let's get proper in the mood for this.
I really want to get a Vision Pro now, Gil. God
Yeah,
damn it.
one thing I didn't know, I already talked about. There's less apps than I expected. I want to try playing a game on it, and it's like you can play Fruit Ninja, or you can play chess.
Are there really no game? Like, that's so interesting. They couldn't get any developers to build some really cool games for it.
I mean, they say there are 600 apps on it, but I keep going into the App Store, and I'm like, I figure that they're going to put the best ones up front, and none of them really interested me. It's like you can get an F1 racing vehicle car in your living room and look at it. I can look at a car?
Yeah, it's like, come on, show us something cool, like a way for me to read in a cafe.
Yeah. I want to read a book on the moon. And the book keeps floating away, and you're like, God dang.
The moon, that's way too exciting. Like a cafe, like a replica of a cafe that's
A
a block from me.
photorealistic representation of my apartment, but slightly less messy.
But not too clean, because that'll give it an uncanny valley effect.
I said it earlier, but I actually looked around and was annoyed at the clutter. And so I was just like, all right, let's just get rid of that. My place is going to be a disaster soon.
I would just picture you like your dog comes up to you, the dog your dog sitting comes up to you, is annoying you, and you're just like, doo, doo, doo.
Yeah. It's time for Gaming with Gil. Today, we are talking about the not at all controversial, universally beloved Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. Daniel, I told you a little bit about this already. This is sort of a crossover because we just covered the Arkham tie-in comic on Gil Reads Comics, but the background of this game, again, the story is that Brainiac, this evil alien or android, depending on the continuity you pick, comes to Earth, decides he wants to terraform the whole planet into New Kolu. That's his homeworld. He wants to remake it here. And to get the job done, he has brainwashed the Justice League to do his evil bidding. With no Justice League, all hope is lost. False. Shut up. Not all hope is lost, because we have something called Task Force X, the Suicide Squad. 4 expendable jerks. Harley Quinn, Deadshot, Captain Boomerang, and King Shark. Amanda Waller puts nanobombs in their skull. If they disobey orders, I hope they're not too attached to their head, because in a second, they're not going to be. I didn't play the game. I'll say that right up front, but I paid someone to play it for me, and I watched it. So I've seen the entire story, and that's what we're going to focus on today. If you're curious on... Oh, go ahead. Did you have something to say about that?
No, did you like fast forward through the gameplay mechanics?
Well, the beautiful thing is that there's a lot of YouTube channels now that will create game movies. So within hours of release, or within a day or two of release, you could find Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League movie, where they cut all the cutscenes together and put gameplay footage in between, only to the extent that it's necessary. Because sometimes there's important information you get during the actual gameplay. Again, I got to email one of those channels and ask them how they do it, because they have plenty of score in those game movies. And I got to think that they figured out how to deal with the copyright side of the equation, but neither here nor there. So I've watched the game now a couple of times. I've recapped it as part of the video that's coming out tomorrow, and I have a lot of thoughts about it. I'm going to get into massive spoilers in a moment. I think most people who are interested in this game probably already know everything that happens. They kind of put it out on Front Street in the title, but like I said, I'll spoil it. So there's your warning. Daniel, I told you this game is really controversial. There's a lot of reasons for that. Well, I don't know why I said that. There's really one main reason for that. It's that they kill the Justice League. They kill Batman. They kill the Flash, Green Lantern, Superman, all of them. Maybe people would be okay with that. I read a comic years ago called Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. He killed everyone in the Marvel Universe. I read a comic where Punisher killed everyone in the Marvel Universe. It's pretty cool, actually. It was a what if, where in the original continuity, it was gang violence. His family got caught in the crossfire. He went out for revenge. This was a what if his family got killed in a fight between superheroes and supervillains. And he's like, I'm sick of this crap. Everyone's going to die. The villains, the good guys, I don't care. I remember this one panel, made me sick to my stomach years ago when I was a kid. He puts a gun to Peter Parker's head and he goes, Peter's like, why me? And Frank Castle says, got to start somewhere.
Oh my God.
Sick stuff. But it's a what if story. It doesn't bother anybody. But this game, they made sure to say firmly, this is in the Arkhamverse. This is a sequel to Arkham Origins, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight. That game had a great ending. It wrapped up the whole series. This follows that. And you can even start the game and pretend it doesn't. You can kind of make up in your head, no, this is its own story. But they don't waste an opportunity to remind you that it is not its own story. Because Harley Quinn was involved in a lot of the events of that game. She acknowledges it. There's plenty of references. You can find little clues in the game that paint the picture of what's happened in the last 5 years. That's the gap between games. There's weird continuity stuff which they actually address. So this Deadshot in this game looks nothing like the Deadshot we met in previous games. And this version will actually say, oh, that imposter, that was not the real Deadshot. And then you can find little Easter eggs that reveal that other Deadshot came from another universe. So he is the real Deadshot, but in this world, he's an imposter. And this Deadshot killed that stupid knockoff Deadshot from another universe. So you can pretend it's a different continuity, but they don't want you to forget it is not. It became, and people love that character. The Arkham Asylum game, when it came out, was considered the greatest superhero game of all time. Overall, it is a beloved iteration of the Batman character. That alone is disheartening to now just see him killed. On top of that, Kevin Conroy, who's voiced the character for years, passed away. So it feels like it's in poor taste. At the same time, obviously, they couldn't anticipate that. And what are you going to do? Like, that just sucks. So it's not a self-contained story. It's explicitly a sequel. That bothered a lot of people. Now, I went into it, and to be honest, I tried not to let it bother me too much. And as much as they want to connect it to the other games, tonally and visually, it looks and feels so different. My mind still interpreted it the same way it would interpret a what-if story, whereas DC calls it Elseworlds. I don't really connect them as part of the same ongoing story. The Batman games did not have the Justice League in them. There might have been little Easter eggs here and there, but you didn't see Flash, Superman. You saw some supernatural stuff, but not to this extent. This feels a lot more like typical superhero stuff than the Arkham games. Even the gameplay is totally different. Arkham was an action adventure. There was a lot of puzzles to solve. The gameplay would change from one part to the next. For example, one really cool element in Arkham Asylum is that Scarecrow will hit you with fear toxin, and you sort of enter this nightmare world where suddenly the game becomes a side-scrolling platformer. Really cool. This new game is a looter shooter where it's all about shooting, and it's pretty repetitive. It's got RPG elements. That's what looter shooters are. It's where you shoot a lot of bad guys, you find better weapons, and you shoot more bad guys, but it's satisfying because your weapons are better now. And now the enemies are stronger, so you have to get even stronger weapons to keep up. So it feels like a very different game that they have now gone and like force them to tie together. But putting all of that controversy, putting all of those feelings aside, I always like to take a piece of content or a work of art totally on its own terms. So just on its own, how is this game? And to set the atmosphere, Daniel, why don't I'll just play the footage in the background. No audio though. I don't want to have any music in here.
Ooh, this looks cool.
That's the first thing I'll say is that a part of this is just that I have not kept up with video games. This is a new frontier for one take. So I was blown away by the graphics of this game. On one level, just the novelty of seeing such an insane story, evil Justice League getting killed by the Suicide Squad, you wouldn't expect to see that outside the pages of a comic where they can go wild, they can do anything. Maybe you would see it animated. You would never dream of seeing it in live action. Obviously, this isn't live action, but it looks so good, it almost gave me the sensation of this is what it would look like if the Justice League turned evil and the Suicide Squad had to kill them. And this footage is reminding me of something I didn't mention. By the time the game starts, Brainiac has begun the process. Metropolis, 99% of citizens in Metropolis have been transformed into forces for his army. They get turned into these weird robot alien looking things. The name escapes me. So it looks like the post-apocalypse. So this is what Metropolis looks like right now. I would also say, so visually, I thought it looked awesome, and it gave me that sensation. The stakes, for a good portion of this game, it really gives you that feeling of how the hell are these characters going to survive this? They're fighting quasi-gods. Superman, Flash, Green Lantern can conjure anything with his willpower using that little green ring. So it did give me the feeling that you want, which is, I don't know how they're going to overcome this.
But also, like, these people, like all these henchmen they're killing, these are just citizens of Metropolis, right? That have been turned into henchmen.
Yeah, it's messed up. The game definitely lives up to what you would expect from a Suicide Squad. Especially
why are we on floating islands, by the way?
I don't know. Did he destroyed the ground between them? I don't know.
Sorry, you were saying that.
No problem. I mean, you pretty quickly find out that this game, it's not really trying to tell a story in a conventional way. And that's the thing. If you take a story, remove it from a game and try to look at it on its own, it's not really fair to think of it in a conventional way because the stories are designed to inorganically create opportunities for gameplay, and you want it to feel as natural as possible. One end of the spectrum is Quest Probe, where it feels very unnatural. You can watch the first episode of Gaming with Guild to see what we're talking about. But that game made no sense and just shoehorned a bunch of puzzles into a scenario where it doesn't belong. Arkham Asylum, it tries to make it work, but you will still get things like Joker runs to the other room, pops up on the screen and is like, let's see how you do against this wave of baddies, bats. And he sends a wave of bad guys. Okay, you defeated them. Well, try this on for size. It's a video game. So the story has to make room for gameplay. But I would say that Arkham generally transcended the medium to some extent. They were genuine character moments that will punch you in the gut. The acting, awesome for the most part. I mean, if you're talking about Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, acting is top notch. Jonathan Banks, Mike Ehrmantraut, he plays Jim Gordon in Arkham City. And I have a bunch of his dialogue in the video. So Better Call Saul fans, check out that recap when it drops.
Wait, Mike Ehrmantraut plays Gordon?
Jim Gordon, yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, in what was the last game of the series, Arkham Knight. And he has some great character moments. This is a seasoned Jim Gordon that essentially is Mike Ehrmantraut. And it's awesome. Now, the Arkham games, I will say, at times, there are moments where it feels a little bit like it was written by children or by people, well, I'll say it that way. Just for example, little things. Oh no, Bane found out Batman's secret identity. Well, good thing in the previous scene, we mentioned that one side effect of Venom is that if you use too much, it erases your memory. Okay. Or Joker snuck his blood into different hospitals. So some innocent Gothamites got blood transfusion and Joker blood was in it. And they start turning into Joker. Like they start turning pale white, green hair. And even that, maybe I don't know, I can't really buy it, but you can get there with some sci-fi logic of whatever mutated him, it changed his DNA, and now it can change your DNA. But it's so specific as they get in their brain, I got to kill Batman. I guess even that, if they've been exposed to that narrative their whole life on the news, the DNA is looking to latch on to the Joker code. I don't know. But let me put it this way. Christopher Nolan would never have endorsed that plot. Would never have done something like that. So there are some things like that in the Arkham series. Suicide Squad doesn't try to get there. There are no character arcs. There are no characters you really empathize with. You like some of them because they're fun. King Shark is funny. Well, I shouldn't speak for everyone because I think most people will say, who likes them? People are not liking this game. I'll admit, I found the banter between them funny sometimes. King Shark, even though it feels a lot like Drax 2.0, not understanding things, found it funny. Boomerang being stupid a lot. Here's an example, and I'll give you a spoiler, a big twist that happens partway through the game, even though they made some announcements beforehand, so you kind of knew it was coming. Lex Luthor is one of their last hopes in this game because he's a really smart guy, and somehow he knows a lot about Brainiac. He even has a robot armor suit he uses, and they find out that that's actually Brainiac tech. Where is he getting all this stuff? He even developed a little machine that can hurt Flash, forces him to slow down, makes him vulnerable. He gets that machine, and Flash rips his heart out. So Lex Luthor dies. But at a certain point, the Suicide Squad jumps through a portal, and they end up in another world where Brainiac was successful. He's begun terraforming the entire planet. The population's wiped out. There's only one guy who's alive, Lex Luthor. So they find this other Lex Luthor. And, oh yeah, all of this just to tell you the punchline to a joke. Lex Luthor explains all this, and then Boomerang's like, I still don't get how he faked his own death. And King Shark is like, Boomerang, what do you think is happening right now? And he's like, I want to say time travel. Like that stuff made me laugh. And I think if people open up their hearts, it can make them laugh too. I think a lot of people went into this game really angry. But if you set all the anger aside, do what I did. As I've gotten older, and I think it has less to do with age and more to do with the fact that I've been burned so many times by franchises being resurrected, I've just learned in my brain I can turn continuity on and off. You tell me it's Arkham? No, it's not. It's like the little immersion knob on the Vision Pro. I can, when I want this to be connected to Arkham, it's connected. When I don't want it to be connected, just turn it off. It's not connected. And I was able to enjoy some of the banter. With no real characters or character arcs, like do these characters really struggle with the fact that they're killing heroes? Or the fact that, I mean, the world might end. What does that mean for me? What do I want to achieve here? Am I just trying not to get my head blown up? Or do I genuinely want to save the world? They don't deal with any of that except for some jokes. Deadshot, they kind of hand wave a story. It's always the case that he has this daughter, Zoe. He's doing it all for his daughter. They don't really delve into that very much. They just kind of pay lip service to it. So it's not really trying to do character work. It's not trying to tell a conventional story. So what keeps you engaged in the story other than the gameplay itself? Curiosity. It's a tough situation. How are you going to take down the Justice League? Pretty soon, the curiosity wears off because the game, not only in the gameplay, but in the story, becomes very repetitive. Find secret weapon with the right ability. Use it to kill hero. So Lex Luthor made the anti-Flash device. Flash ripped his heart out. They get the device, fix it, make a few more of them, kill Flash. All right, now we got to stop Green Lantern. Well, good thing. Long time ago, Batman got a hold of some Sinestro battery cores, and then they can use that to destroy Green Lantern's constructs, make him vulnerable, they can kill him. Superman is somehow immune to the kryptonite. Let's make gold kryptonite. Let's do it.
Hey, remember we talked last week about all the different colors of kryptonite?
We did. I knew you were going to like that. Now there are more steps to it. I'm kind of oversimplifying, but that is the rhythm of the game. It's the curiosity is just, okay, what secret weapon are we going to concoct now? To be fair, how else can you do it? I don't know. So if you were going to make this story work on a higher level, fine, have the get secret weapon, kill superhero, but also give me more on top of that. It never really gets there. Doesn't really try. And then the game
looks fun though.
Yeah, I can't speak to how fun it is or not. I'm hearing people say that it's somewhat repetitive, but it is fun. And here's the other thing. So the game, and I'm going to come back to that in a second, the game doesn't really have an ending. The way it ends is you kill Brainiac, but at this point you've found out that there's alternate realities. And it turns out that Brainiac was working with 12 other versions of himself from other worlds. That's also how Lex Luthor, how did he know more about Brainiac? How did he get that robot armor? It turns out he was working with his other self from the other world, right? So he knew about alternate realities nobody else did. So the game ends with them saying, wait a minute, so you're saying that we just killed Brainiac, but we get to keep killing this a-hole again and again? That's awesome. High five. And it came off as very cheesy because it feels like they really want people to feel that way. So it's like they're trying to incept us with the idea. That game you all just played, you get to keep playing it. Now, to be fair, they're giving it away for free. So for the next few months, they're going to keep releasing DLC and continue the story. And each new DLC will send you to another Brainiac, but also you're going to another world. So you're going to meet members of that world's Suicide Squad. They haven't announced all the characters yet. The one we know for sure is Joker. He's dead in the Arkham continuity, but they're going to find another Joker from another reality, and he's a very different take. I don't really know how to describe him. He seems like a TikTok star or something. Just look up a picture of him. You'll see. So the game doesn't really have much of an ending. And in terms of is it fun or not, what I'm hearing people say is somewhat repetitive. It's fun, but I'm not really chomping at the bit, or whatever the phrase is, for the next piece of DLC that comes down the pike. Despite the fact that the characters seem really jazzed about it, I'm not quite getting there. I'll say from a story standpoint, I am still mildly curious. I enjoyed the process of watching the story from the game, for the reasons I mentioned before, even though it never transcended the medium. Not that I expected it to. But one thing I'll say is that even though this is not the main DC continuity, it's not its own thing. It's part of the Arkhamverse, but it is this sort of side continuity from the comics and the movies. Despite that, I don't think they're going to leave it here. I am sure this Justice League is going to come back. Time travel, Brainiac tech, somehow I think they're going to come back. And this is how much of a sucker I am. I've read a million comics. I know that characters don't stay dead. But years ago, I got hooked on a specific run of the mainstream Spider-Man comic where Peter Parker switched bodies with Doc Ock. And at this point, Doc Ock had cancer. He was on the brink of death. They switch minds, and then Doc Ock dies. And Peter is in his body. So Peter dies in Doc Ock's body. It was really depressing. And then Doc Ock has Peter's body. It was called The Superior Spider-Man. And I was like, I got to keep reading because it's bothering me in my day-to-day life. I feel upset that Peter Parker died such an awful death. And they kept hinting he's going to come back. So Ock was kind of haunted by his consciousness or something. But then he made a machine that erased his consciousness. And he's like, Peter is dead for good. And I was like, no! And I kept reading.
I remember you telling me about this. How long ago was this?
It was, I don't know, it feels recent, but I know it must have been years ago. Let me look. Superior Spider-Man ran from 2013 to 2014, 10 years ago. I guess it's a 20s thing. Yeah. I feel a little bit of that again, where I am going to want to see what happens in the next DLC. I want to see if the Justice League comes back or if they're really going to stick with this. And if they stick with this, where is the story going? How do you have a happy ending where it's like we saved the world everyone's dead. So I'll keep tuning in. And if the video does well tomorrow, I'm going to have to tune in because I'm going to keep updating the continuity. Even the comic,
With every
the
DLC.
Arkham, every DLC, the Arkham tie-in comic, I'll bring that in. It's a little sad to see that this is where the Arkham series has ended up with all this controversy. And, you're so attached to that Batman character, and this game is not from his perspective at all. He's the bad guy. So it's a little bit of a bummer. But I am curious to see where it goes. Here's the bottom line. Not a great story, but there's some curiosity in it because the stakes are so high. They do a good job selling it. Visually great, especially for such an insane story to see it represented this way. There is just a gimmick factor that, for me, kept me engaged. And it was kind of fun. The humor, the banter seems to have worked better for me than other people. I don't know how to explain that other than I think some people went in really angry at the game, or maybe it's just the subjectivity of humor. I don't know. But I somewhat enjoyed it. And I'll keep tuning into the DLC. If anybody's looking for a job and you want to play a game for money, let me know. I shouldn't say that actually. I got a guy. I got a couple guys. So, but if you are willing to charge less, just don't reach out at gil@onetake.tv. Any thoughts, Daniel? Any questions?
I got to start playing games again. Games look
That
fun.
was my thought too. I mean, originally, I am trying to get better about handling my workload and just be more efficient with my time. I was about to carve out 3 days last week to play Suicide Squad the moment it comes out. I was like, I'm not going to sleep. As soon as that game drops, I'm going to play it. And I was getting stressed out because I don't even know if I have the console. I don't know if I have the right equipment to play it. Can my computer handle it? I have no idea. And then I realized I was actually starting to look forward to it. I was like, I don't have a choice. I have to play the game. But then I was like, it's not responsible for me to essentially take 3 days off work to play a video game. But it did make me want to play again. I was like, wow, games have come a long way. So I don't know. I have to find a way to work it into my schedule somehow. Maybe if I can play on a treadmill or something, or elliptical, somehow make it part of some other, or maybe, isn't it okay? This is Gaming with Gil. Let's get real for a second. Is it not okay to occasionally sit down for some leisure time? Just play a game. Just have a good time.
Whoa, if it's leisure time, it's not a business expense.
Well, I'm not going to play in the Vision Pro.
Wait, you know what? You could go for, I guess the Vision Pro won't be comfortable, but eventually one day go for a run wearing it, or like even just on a treadmill and you got like a movie screen in front of you.
And that would be cool. But I mean, more than that, I would say it can put you into a trail where you're running.
Yeah.
There was an audio app I used to use where while you're running, it would make it sound like zombies are chasing you. And then they would get more aggressive. And it's like, you got to keep running. They're on you, But if you could gamify running, but right now it would be sloshing all over your face.
Yeah.
Plus, you would get it drenched in sweat. So somebody would have to make a replacement for the Quest. I know they have a replacement band or something that you can use when you're exercising, so you don't get your normal one just soaked. But here's the great thing: Gaming with Gil. Suddenly, I have an excuse. I can play a game and I can talk about it here. As long as we just got to get those numbers up. But hey, episode 1, Quest Probe featuring Spider-Man, I think broke 100 today. So if that keeps going up, the more views we get, the more I can justify playing games. See, right now, I can only talk about games that can be played in 2 hours, like Quest Probe. Suicide Squad, that's like a 15-hour game. We need 1,000 views per episode before I can justify playing a game like that. So you're going to watch...
Gil.
Yeah.
Well, just think if each of our viewers gets just 100 of their friends to watch, and each of those 100 get 100 of their friends to watch, we're set.
Yeah, we're not asking a lot. I mean, how hard is that? I want all of you have a task. Tomorrow, I want you to walk outside. If you're not in a populated area, I want you to leave that area. Go somewhere populated. You find somebody, anybody, you look in their face and you scream in their face, subscribe to One Take and Gaming with Gil, which is part of a live stream they do every week. and then it gets chopped out and put on another channel. It's a podcast, kind of. It's a playlist. Okay? This way you can play more games. Who can play more games? Somebody did.
That's so hard.
Somebody did hand me a little card, and they were like, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Help me quit my job. And then I said, well, subscribe to my channel. And in my head, I played out this whole scenario where he's going to be like, what channel? I'm like, One Take. And he's like, that's you? And then I would take him under my wing. He would be the Tim Drake to my Bruce Wayne. But instead he said, well, okay, maybe I'll check it out later. And then he took off.
And then you grabbed him by the arm and you were like, no. Let me tell you about One Take.
Check out my playlist. It's like a podcast, but it's a playlist and a live stream. Okay? It's okay.
Why did you turn into J. Jonah Jameson?
Yeah, Adam pointed that out too. I noticed that is that's my voice when I get, I guess, what would you call what I was just doing? Stern? Aggressive?
And like you're also acting like old school in some way. Like you're like hosting a radio show.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps up another episode of Gaming with Gil. And I will say that if you found this clip on the One Take podcast channel and you're intrigued, this is Arkham stuff. Sounds pretty cool. I wish somebody would recap all of it into a 2.5 hour experience. That actually doesn't require me to look at the screen. The recap is designed so you could just listen to it. Maybe you're going for a run and you want to hear the entire Batman journey through the Arkham universe. I got that video coming out on the main channel tomorrow. As soon as it's out, I'll put a link in the comments and the description, and you can find it. We'll wrap it up there. See you on the next one.
Thanks for watching.
Well, no, hold on. So that was the end of Gaming with Gil.
Sorry.
Now we get to wrap up the live stream.
Wait, can I still say thanks for watching Gaming with Gil? Okay, wait. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next Gaming with Gil. And Daniel.
Nice. You haven't earned your stripes yet. Once you actually play a game, then why don't you play
I bought a Switch. I bought a Switch to play Zelda months ago.
Yeah, and then I feel like 2 weeks later, you're like, does anybody want my Switch? Well, we have to figure out, actually, logistically, next week, you're going to be in China. I'll still be here. And then the following week, I'm going to be in China with you. And actually, when's Valentine's Day?
Wednesday. It's a week from today.
You think I'm streaming on Valentine's Day? You'd be right. No, I'm just kidding. Not a chance. So we got to figure out what we're doing next week. There's two options, Daniel. One, I do a solo stream on an alternate night. Option two, you and I find some other time, pre-record something. Maybe you play a game, a Game Boy game or something. We do a quick Gaming with Gil, record a couple things, and we can release them. I guess not on the main channel, but just over on the podcast channel. Stagger it over the next couple weeks. We'll talk. We'll figure it out.
We'll talk. We'll figure it out. We'll do a strategy
session. We don't want
to
air our dirty laundry, sausages out in the public. See how the dirty laundry is made. Air. You see what I did there? All right, Daniel, I'm going to give you the final word.
All right. Well, this was fun. This was a good time. I think this conversation may have cost me thousands of dollars because I'm going to go buy a Vision Pro now. And I also need a new MacBook.
You don't want to try using mine first?
No. Come on. It's so fun to just buy it online. No, I'm gonna try yours.
Just maybe after the stream, let's talk. I'll tell you what I really think of it. And then you can decide if you want to get one.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Am I ending it? Am I wrapping it up?
Yeah. You were on such a roll there. Try it again.
Well, thanks everybody for watching. We had a ton of fun tonight. We laughed, we cried, we had all sorts of shenanigans going on. We saw new technology. We talked about comics. We talked about games. Well, we didn't talk about games because the games was on Gaming with Gil, not this podcast. But, we talked about all sorts of things. So anyway, thanks for watching and see you on the next One Take.